Hey, what's up? I'm Lauren Tix Wilson. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, welcome back to my channel if it's not. And today we're going to talk about Janet Jackson's All For You. Which album number is this? Come on, calling all Janet Jackson super fans right now. I remember there was this girl when this album came out that I had a crush on. She was my neighbor's cousin, and they were playing a lot of different promotional things for this album and documentaries, and they were showing a young Janet Jackson, like when she was performing with her brothers, and I was probably younger than that, but to me, I'm thinking Janet was like my same age. So I see my neighbor's cousin, and she looks to me a lot like Janet Jackson at that age. I told her one day, you look a lot like Janet Jackson. I thought she was cute. I was trying to impress her. She wasn't impressed. She didn't like the compliment too much. I don't think she understood it or got it or saw what I saw at the time. But it's all good. I have many stories on girls not being so nice to me, but obviously the good always outweighs the bad. But yeah, let's get into talking about Janet Jackson's 7th studio LP, and it just so happened it's been 24 years since this album. Let's get into it, y'all.
Don't ever doubt you'll be someone. Always go for what you want. Get up and put your purpose on. Get up, feel the sunshine on your face. Believe that you deserve it all. Put in the work and you will end up far. This is my show and tell. So tell me, are you ready to get it on? So tell me, yeah. So tell me, are you ready? So tell me, are you ready for me? So tell me, are you ready? Tell me, are you ready?
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. We're talking about Janet Jackson's 7th studio album, All For You, released July 24th, 2001. It's 2001, right where we are right now. As you can see, let's just imagine it's 2001. Janet is fresh off of her single, Doesn't Really Matter, from the Nutty Professor 2. That single was released May 23rd, 2000, so I kind of feel like that's when the era of All For You kicked off. But the first single for the All For You era, for the album, is All For You. I have a 21-track version of this album. This album originally came with 20 tracks, I believe. Yeah, it came with 20 tracks. After Better Days, there's an outro, and then it goes off out after that. But I have the bonus track version that features Son of a Gun remix featuring Carly Simon, of course, P. Diddy, and Missy Elliott. It's pretty fly. The last time we heard from Janet Jackson, it was her 6th studio album, of course, The Velvet Rope. And she had many singles off of that album. The last single that was produced off of that album was Every Time, I believe. All For You kicks off March 6, 2001 with title single All For You, with a slamming, colorful, futuristic, yet like hand-drawn music video. Of course, then Janet Jackson is dancing, classic dance move with her same choreographer that she used for the past few music videos. She's dressed in jeans and wearing no shoes. I really like the cover art of this album. It's a different contrast from The Velvet Rope. The Velvet Rope was more introspective, and it kind of had like maybe more self-reflective themes. It has like maybe darker tones, if you will, like darker undertones, especially when it comes to her expression, being with different partners and different lovers of sorts. As you know, Janet has expressed her sexual expression freely since that the Janet self-titled album. But yes, I have a Ebony magazine from November 2001, around the same era of this album, where Janet Jackson had been interviewed, of course, where she talks about just certain things that's going on in her life, and like with her family, and what direction she was going in with this album. This is some of the pictures from the amazing spread from this magazine, Ebony Shoe. This is a dope picture of her and dance rehearsal. The first track off this album is an intro where you can hear Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, who's her producers have been her producers since the Control album. they are playing like keys and just playing around as she's talking with the dancer. And it comes right in with You Ain't Right. And I like You Ain't Right. You know, this album is much brighter because, you know, The Velvet Rope, of course, has more moodier undertones, more, you know, it has a different vibe. This album sounds much brighter and it sounds much more upbeat, and I personally can imagine Janet touring, which would what she did. So I think the idea was include a set of new songs that would be perfect for her to tour with, along with the songs that she already had. That's what I just feel like their idea was. Also, just to make great music, of course. But I just love the You Ain't Right beat. It's very different, but it's very dancey. Like if you're a dancer, especially if you do a lot of choreography, I feel like a lot of these songs are for you. Track number 3 is the title track, All For You. We just talked about that single, which and the release of that single with the music video. It's very colorful. The All For You song samples The Glow of Love by Change. It's very funky. The song sounds very funky. I like the two-way interlude that comes right after, and you can kind of hear the play on that as the tracks transition. That's why it's better to have the album, like the physical album, because when you're listening to it on YouTube, and sometimes if you listen to it on Spotify, if the songs mix up if you're not paying for Spotify, or it just depends. But it's better to have the actual physical copy where the tracks can kind of like lead in to each other correctly. There's a few albums on Apple Music that don't kind of lead in to each other correctly. Number 5, exactly going back to my point, Come On Get Up is one of those songs that's made for dancers, for making choreography, for touring. That's what that song sounds like to me. I can just hear her. If you've seen the Janet Jackson 2002 Hawaii Live Tour, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or if you've seen any of Janet Jackson concerts and tour. Come On Get Up is a pretty cool track. I like the beat. Again, it sounds very like dancey, really, compared to You Ain't Right. It sounds different. It sounds like it has like hip hop elements with like the kind of like how the beat is kind of like sound like somebody's beatboxing a little bit. But Come On Get Up definitely sounds like one of those like dance clubby, like jumping up and down songs. When We Ooh is a perfect icebreaker. I love the harmonies. I love the synthesizers. I love the soft way that Janet is singing in this song. I feel like a lot of time Janet Jackson doesn't get credit for her vocal style. People are so obsessed with vocal prowess, or how loud or how strong your voice sounds, but people aren't really paying attention to tones and textures and being in key and all that kind of stuff. Janet Jackson's harmonies are really, really good. If you listen to all of her albums, going from Rhythm Nation down to All For You, listen to her harmonies. But When We Ooh implements all of that, leading right into the perfect track, China Love, which kind of sounds like the two tracks go together. Now, I remember playing this album when I I felt like I encountered my twin flame. So when I felt like when I had that encounter, I had a creative surge, and I was listening to a lot of different music and doing a lot of different things at that time, which which really got me to the point where I am now. And I would listen to this album. This was one of the albums I would listen to in Rhythm Nation. But I was just telling somebody a story about that, like, oh, find your Luke, find your Luke. Somebody that I met that really, kind of gave me a revelation, really. Like, I was telling them how I felt like we already knew each other, like our shadows was playing like children when it sounded like I know it sounds crazy, but it feels like we had reconnected for like some lost time. But it gave me this creative surge and intrigued me to find those type of relationships with everybody that I met going forward. And I just remember all the music I was listening to at that time. And this was one of those albums, and that was one of the songs that kind of took me in that drift and in that kind of like daze. That's why I feel like When We Oop is perfect going into China Love, because it's so atmospheric. It kind of takes you in that dreamland, if you know what I mean. Love Scene is a perfect way to come out of that. It's a set out going straight into, because Love Scene sounds like it's going to be a intro, but it's a whole song. Again, I love the way how she's softly singing and her background's on this song. But Love Scene goes straight into track number 9. That's crazy how these tracks are jam packed. Like you have You Ain't Right, track 2, All For You, track 3, 2A is really an interlude, Come On Get Up, 5, When We Ooh, 6, China Love, 7. Track 8, Love Scene, like you're really in for a full ride for it with this album. Like it just keeps going. Maybe this album was maybe hard to listen to for some Janet fans or some people, because they're expecting a Velvet Rope Part 2, but hey. Hey, but that I don't know why you would expect a Velvet Rope Part 2 after growth and presenting a new record to someone, but this was exuding more sexual expression for Janet and sexual freedom. Ebony magazine actually spoke with her about that in this article. Recently, you said that the eroticism in your songs and performances, you're just being honest about your own sexuality. What do you mean by that? And Janet Jackson, of course, being Janet, and being very classy with her answer. With each album, eroticism has gone further and further. I will say that. And that is not for shock value. That is just being totally truthful and being totally honest and just expressing myself and being comfortable with my sexuality and wanting to share that side of me, I guess, with the public. That's a pretty good answer, Janet. That's a pretty cool intro. But Janet spoke on it. She was very fearless when speaking about her sexual expression, her image, her performances, and her music. Going into that, track number 9, Would You Mind, where she's expressing that completely and freely. The song Would You Mind was featured in the movie How High, but it wasn't on the soundtrack. But this song got a lot of flack and criticism for how expressive she was on this track. But again, going back to that Ebony quote, Janet Jackson just felt like she was just expressing herself. Track number 10 is a lame interlude coming out of the Would You Mind track, because Janet feels like the women, coming from the women's point of view, they get all riled up, and when they're ready, the guys aren't ready and can't keep up, which is a whole nother conversation. That is a grown conversation. Anyway, track number 10, lame. I feel like I am not grown enough for that. But that is what Janet is expressing, and people have that freedom to express that. Track number 10, lame, which is what we're explaining that, goes into track number 11, Trust a Tribe. Again, this Trust a Tribe track sounds very edgy. It's another one of those performance tracks for Janet Jackson, and I like the effect that they put on her lead vocal. It sounds like she's singing through a speaker box. It makes her voice sound like a guitar, like on many of her other tracks that makes her voice sound like she's singing like a guitar. That's what Janet Jackson's voice reminds me of when she's not singing very soft. It sounds like she's an electric guitar. Many voices to me have different sounds to me, and that sounds like instruments, which is so beautiful. And one of those instruments, when she's not using her beautiful soft palette, is an electric guitar. That's what it sounds like to me, because it sounds like that in Black Cat, and it sounds like that in Trust a Tribe. So listen to it, and y'all let people know that Lawrence put y'all on to that way of thinking of, hey, that is what her voice kind of sound like. Clouds is an interlude. It's a perfect interlude. It's going into Son of a Gun. I Bet You Think This Song Is About You with Carly Simon. I told you this album features that remix, which is what the hype sticker is promoting. Y'all know I love collecting albums that have a hype sticker on it. Peep the album design as well. Beautiful, beautiful album design. Janet Jackson said during this album photo shoot she was sick, so that's why her eyes look very low in some of these pictures, and they put heavy eyeshadow on her to kind of blend that look in. But hey, quick moves, great move. But the pictures still came out pretty dope. Beautiful, of course. Track number 9, I Bet You Think This Song Is About You, Son of a Gun, samples the song Carly Simon, You're So Vain. I really like the mixture in between the two songs where Janet writes original verses and uses Carly Simon's hook, and Carly Simon wrote an original poem to go with the song instead of sampling the song completely, which was a perfect addition. So I feel like Son of a Gun is talking about the marriage that she had with Renee. That's what I feel like, and how the marriage sort of fell out. I feel like The Velvet Rope is songs that's kind of reflecting on her healing from that pain, and I feel like this album is more so reflecting on moving on from that pain. So that's why you have songs like Son of a Gun on this album, and you have songs right after that track called Truth, which I feel like is another song talking to him and probably other people, basically saying, you know what, she came from what she came from, but she had her own, and she really didn't need anybody to make her. And it's just a scream for is a claim of independence, if you ask me. The song after that is a song that's been trending as of recent, Someone to Call My Lover, and that's what this website is promoting. It's promoting the download Janet's new video, Someone to Call My Lover. Visit mtv.com, bet.com, or VH1 to get your own free copy of this hot summer hit. Pretty dope, right? That's what the Janet Jackson website is 2001 at the time, right? Was, well, actually early 2002, because that's the second single off this album, which was released. Someone to Call My Lover was released June 12, 2001. So that was the second single off of this album. So around June 2001, that's when everybody could, get that single, But the video pretty much circulated between 2001 and 2002, because there was a Jermaine Dupri Social Def remix, which has a video as well as the original version. The video shares similar scenes, but alternative scenes, because it's a remix. Yeah. So yes, I'm so glad that song is trending. I'm so glad people are discovering Janet and appreciating Janet. It's super exciting. And shout out to the James Rodriguez for talking about Janet's singles still charting to this day. Even singles that were released overseas and eventually re-released in the US, vice versa, all that kind of stuff. But check out the George Rodriguez if you know it. I love his. He reminds me of myself, because he's a collector and he's coming with the facts and things that are still charting, things that you can get on physical copy that you didn't know had a physical copy. Shout out to you, James Rodriguez. You're jamming. You're the jam. I'm surprised he's not talking about Someone to Call My Lover, but I'm sure he did, or we'll be talking about it again. Shout out to him. After Someone to Call My Lover, you have the Feel So Right to kind of cool down the roll of the album, as well as Someone to Call My Lover to kind of like slow down the roll of the album, because you're coming out of, Son of a Gun, and then Truth is kind of like giving you that cool down, going into Someone to Call My Lover, Feels So Right. And then after that, you have the single, which is honestly the first official single. Doesn't really matter, but the first official single off All For You is All For You. The Doesn't Really Matter track that's a single is a single for the Nutty Professor The Comes To soundtrack. But there's an album version of Doesn't Really Matter that is performed at the 2001 MTV Music Video Awards. If I'm not mistaken, VMAs, the Video Music Awards, which was pretty dope, where she performed this version of Doesn't Really Matter, and it ended up on the actual album. So obviously, if you had the album, I'm not sure of when that aired, so it was pretty cool. I'm sure to some Janet Jackson fans I already heard the album, to see her actually perform this version of the album live, that version of the track live. That's pretty dope. Better Days is, it sounds like a Janet is making peace with moving on and moving forward with the turmoil that she was dealing with, and just leaving it behind her and looking forward to what's to come. And I really like that song. And again, it's exuding and it's showing you a firm example of what Janet's vocal abilities are, and what her vocal styling is, and why it should be appreciated, using her tones and textures, and her background vocals in that song, being able to layer her vocals like that. I feel like she obviously learned that from whoever influenced her, aside from anybody in her family. But I feel like firsthand it's coming from watching her family do that, being a 5-part harmony group, and her brother Michael Jackson going solo and mastering that as a solo artist, because his harmony layers are it's only in his lane. Michael is in his own lane, but I love the both of them equally. But yes, that's how the album originally ends. But this album has a bonus track right after that. It has an outro, of course, with Janet Jackson talking to her producers, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, asking them, hey, do you guys like how this album sounds? And if you like it, I'm sure the fans will. And that they did. The song ends with that, but actually this album version don't. It ends with the third single off of this album, Son of a Gun remix, which we talked about at the beginning of this video, which is a Bad Boy Puff Daddy remix, which is a pretty amazing remix. It has a video to go with it, which includes p.diddy himself and Missy Elliott, so check that out. I love the scenes where she's like walking with different little imps or entities, if you will, different female imps, and which represents the women that he did wrong, and the spider scenes. It's pretty dope. Of course, this album peaked at #1 on the US and the UK charts for R&B albums. In the US, the top R&B and hip hop. This album went double platinum. It has sold over 3 million records. It has won several awards, including the American Music Award, Teen Choice Award, and many other awards to come. So many. And I feel like it should be certified more at this point. Again, a solid 10, a great album by Janet Jackson. Please check out my other videos that I have on Janet Jackson's album, like Rhythm Nation, and my other videos on my channel. Check out my latest videos. There's more videos to come. I can't wait to share you guys what I'm working on. I got some new stuff cooking for y'all. But yeah, today is the anniversary of Janet Jackson's All For You album, and it's always gonna be a solid 10 for me. I love you, Miss Jackson. I love him. I love this album. Great album. And let me know which Janet Jackson album you would like for me to talk about next, or any artist specifically. But yeah, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.